Hi, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today I'm designing a layout for Papermaze. And this month I'm working with 49er Market's Vintage Artistry Moonlit Garden collection. And it is a really stunning collection. I mean, all 49er Market collections are, but this one is really beautiful. I was initially drawn to it because it looked like it had lots of greens in it, and I have so many outdoor photos of my little boy to scrap, so I thought it would be perfect. But when it arrived with me, I was over the moon. It's really lovely. It's got kind of sage green tones to it. It's got some greys, almost like a charcoal colour, and then lots of duck egg blue colours, and it's really stunning. So I wanted to get lots of those colours on the page, and I have this photo of my little boy that had a lot of the colours from the collection in it, so his jumper and his hat, and I just thought, oh, it was a perfect outdoorsy photo to scrap with these papers. So I've started off with the foundation cardstock pack, and in this you get 8 double-sided papers. So there are 4 papers and you get 2 of each. On one side you've got the almost more of a solid coloured or single colour cardstock, and that's the side you can see here. And then on the reverse of that you get like a watercolour mixed media look. It's also got like some text stamped on it, almost looks like rub-ons. Really beautiful, and you get 2 of each, so you get sort of one of everything in the pack, if that makes sense. And I wanted to have lots of paper layers on this, so I wanted to go for torn edges, and I wanted that white layer showing when you tear the paper. You can tear it 2 different ways. Tear it one way, you have the white edge showing. Tear it the other way and you don't. So I wanted that white edge showing to bring in lots of texture. And I started off with 3 paper strips, or sorry, 3 torn strips of paper across the top, and I thought, I wonder how it would look if I brought that down a little bit. So I was just having a play and sticking them all together, seeing how it looked. And then I decided, actually, what I might do is trim those down to about 8 inches wide and just have those sat as a kind of rectangle on the middle of my page. So effectively the top would be a straight edge, the sides would be a straight edge, but then the bottom would finish with a torn edge. So you can see here I marked out where I wanted to cut it, and I kind of arranged them not lined up, as that makes sense, because I was it's really hard to explain now. I was trying to look at the way the papers were torn and kind of layer them in a particular way that was sort of aesthetically pleasing. So you'll see there I started with some further over to the left and some further over to the right, and that was just so that I could get the torn patterns the way I wanted them. So I've trimmed that down now, and I think I'm going to put my photo in the middle. So I've distressed all around it, and I'm looking at it and I'm really not happy with it now, and I'm regretting cutting those edges down, and I'm thinking, actually, I want to go back to full strips. So I take a little break and just mount my photo on some white cardstock. Because I've got those torn white edges, I wanted a bit of consistency, so I wanted a white edge around the edge of my photo. And I'm going to have a little bit of a play here and see how it looks, because sometimes you start a layout, and especially with mixed media with me, I'll make a background or I'll start like I've done here, and quite early on I'm thinking I'm not happy with it, I'm not liking it, it's just not speaking to me, there's something I can't put my finger on, and then sometimes I'll have a play and I will keep going, I'll persevere and I'll embellish and add things on, and actually once you start bringing other things onto the page, you realise that actually it worked really nicely and I'm really happy with it. It doesn't always happen though, and this was one of those occasions where I was adding things on and I was just thinking, I'm not going to be able to rescue this. I really did regret cutting those papers down, but that's okay because I had lots more left. So what I'm going to do is tear all those pieces back apart, and then I'm going to have them on my page here, kind of off centre, layered, staggered, having a look, seeing if I can do something with them that way. And I'm not liking that either. So I've put those bits to one side. Don't panic, they're not wasted. They have been used on another layout, which I'll be sharing later in the month. I couldn't bear to waste all that cardstock, so they have been used. But now I'm just going back to the pieces of the cardstock that I had left, and I've started right from the beginning again using my torn paper layers. Now, I could have just scrapped the beginning of this video. We're nearly 5 minutes in and I've gone back to the beginning, but I thought it would be useful to show you the process that this layout went through. It wasn't as straightforward as it might often seem. There was a bit of a journey to go through to get it to the point where I was happy, and I thought, you know what, it's quite useful to keep that in for you guys to see that it doesn't always come together really easy, and sometimes you have to have a play. Sometimes things work, sometimes they don't, and I really did regret cutting those papers down, so I'm glad I had some more and I can go back to my original idea of having the papers 12 inches wide, and I'm much happier with this already. So I've retorn those edges to show the white strips again, those lovely white distressed edges. And I'm going to curl those up with my fingers a bit as I go, but I wanted to get some things stuck in place first so I knew what would be visible and what wouldn't. So I've got my white frame around my photo. I've pulled in one of the chipboard words from my title. This pack is amazing. There's so much in it. There are, let's have a look, 54 pieces in that. So you've got some lovely cursive titles, and then you've got some kind of rectangular, more blocky font titles or words and phrases. So lots of things that I can use in that. So like I say, 54 pieces, and that's massive. There's loads in there. So that's going to do me lots of layouts. So I've pulled out that for my title. Then I've had a look through the Wildflower laser cuts. So that's another pack where you get these lovely die cuts, and they come in sheets with their perforated edges, and you've just got to pop them out. There's a couple of little points where they're still attached, so really easy to get out, but it's a really neat way of storing them rather than having a pack, because they are quite delicate. If they were all loose in a pack, they'd all get damaged or torn or bent. So I love the way they come packaged with 49er Market. So I've just popped out the few that I'm going to use. And again, that pack has, it's got 4 sheets in it. They are 6 by 12.5 inches. There's lots on there. There's 77 in total. I've got the pack in front of me. 77 pieces of sort of butterflies, leaves, foliage, flowers, all sorts of things. So those are really stunning. So I've pulled out some of those to use as well. So you can see there I've got a frame on my layout. That was a circular element I've cut in half. I'm going to use the 2 halves in 2 different areas so as not to waste it. It would have been hidden behind my photo otherwise. So I'm going to have half at the top of my photo and half down at the bottom. That is from the laser cut elements pack. So that's another pack. You get the Wildflower laser cut and then just a normal laser cut, which has got lots of elements in. That's a bigger pack. It's still 4 sheets, but that has 116 pieces in, and there's all sorts in there. There are kind of foliage, leaves and stems. There's some tickets, there's some lace borders, there's little signs, there's butterflies, lots of things in there. So I've taken that frame from there, and as you can see, I cut that in half. I've got a couple of butterflies here as well, and then a little ticket there I'm putting over to the left of my photo, which says living the good life, and I love that because it almost matched the colour of my little boy's jumper in the photo. So that was perfect. Now I've pulled out one of those lace borders. There's I think 3 or 4 in the set, all different colours to match the cardstocks, and I just love them. They're so pretty. So I've decided to just cut this one up, and I've placed it along the bottom edge so it's sort of peeking out underneath that bottom paper layer in certain places. Didn't really need too much in the middle because that would have been covered up by all of those beautiful leaves that are hanging down. So by tearing it into pieces, I've managed to stretch it the whole way along the page. I'm just getting those glued into place. So it's coming together quite nicely now and quite quickly. I've got some lovely flowers and leaves and things decorating around the edge of my photo. I've got some foliage, I've got some butterflies I'm bringing in here, and I'm also now bringing in some of the rub-ons. And these are one of my favourite 49er Market products. In this pack you get 6 sheets of, I think there's 6 by 8 sheets, all individual, and then you can just cut out the rub-on that you want. Rather than sort of using the whole sheet, just as you can see here, I'm cutting out the bits I want, place them on your background to see how they look, and then you get a little applicator tool that you just sort of scratch across on top, and that transfers the rub-on onto your background. And I love the quality of these. I used to have rub-ons years ago, really cheap ones, and they're sort of one of those things that stayed in my stash for ages and I never used. And then when I did try and use them, they'd all gone a bit dry and weird and never really worked very well, never transferred well. But the 49 and Market ones are amazing quality, and they transfer with so little effort. It's brilliant. With this little plastic tool, you kind of rub it across, and voila, just like that, it's on your background. And I love the subtle details that it can give to your background. It looks almost like mixed media, some of them, without me needing to do any mixed media or getting messy. So they are really pretty, and each of the 6 sheets in the pack are all different things. So there's some leaves, some butterflies, some words, some kind of mixed media patches. Really lovely. So this is definitely one of my favourite things about 49 and Market collections. So I've just added a couple of rub-ons down the bottom there, and I've added another one to the top as well. I wasn't sure how that was going to come out using that on a dark cardstock, but actually I was really surprised. You can see it. I thought it might just almost look invisible, but you can see it just to the top left corner of my photo there. So I was really happy with how that came out on some dark cardstock. Now I'm just adding some little foam pads underneath those paper layers to bring in a bit more dimension and a little bit sort of shadowing effect. Where they're raised up, they cast a little bit of shadow, so look really dimensional, and it brings just that little bit more texture to the page. I've just gone through the collection then, seeing what else I've got that I can add, and I've got this gorgeous chipboard pack. Let's have a look. That has 57 pieces in it, so another pack that will last a long time. And I think I pulled out 1 or 2 bits from that. I can't remember now. I'm having a look at my layout. I've definitely used a little kind of banner across the top of my photo. It says "My heart is happy," and I wanted to bring in a little bit more of that kind of sage green colour, because I've used a rub-on down the bottom there, those gorgeous leaves, and they had that lovely green colour in, and I didn't have an awful lot of it elsewhere on the page, so I wanted to kind of balance that colour out and bring a bit more in, so I've used that chipboard piece up at the top there. And then I'm just finishing off with some white splatters. Now this is white gesso that I've used. I'm watering it down a little bit, and I prefer to use this rather than acrylic paint because I find it sits on the cardstock and the elements better. It doesn't soak in as much. Sometimes with the paint it soaks in and then it becomes almost translucent and you can see the colour of the cardstock through it. Whereas with gesso it just sits nicely on the top and stays a bit more of a true white colour. So I just finished off with those, and that is me done. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this layout. It really is a stunning collection. So do head on over to the Papermaze website and check it out. I will pop a link in the description box below that will take you directly to that collection just for ease. So do check it out. It is lovely. And if you want links to any of the products I've used, if you check out the Papermaze blog today, you will find links in there for everything that I've used on the page. So thanks very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this layout, and I'll see you next time.